Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Very first, I love your ocean background. Well chosen, which is a great introduction to us. But thank you for the kind words. Let me share my screen. Yeah, can everyone see that? That should work. Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Stephanie Rakels. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Aquaspark. We're an investment fund for sustainable aquaculture. And we're based in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, to be exact. And I'm very happy to share with you why we decided to launch an investment fund for aquaculture. Maybe as a little bit of background, I was already working with the founders before we even launched the fund. So about 10 years ago, I decided to join them and co-developed their impact investment strategy. But for us, oceans was always a theme very close to our hearts, and we learned already in that period that if you really want to make a change for the oceans, you need to start looking into solutions. And aquaculture, we ran into one of them, but also it was an industry where very little capital was going, very fragmented, hardly any infrastructure, a lot of sustainability issues. But we also saw that there are solutions, great solutions out there that can really make a change. Well, first, I have a slide actually on what is aquaculture. It's basically very simply said farming in water. So it can be fish, shellfish, and plants. And there are several ways you can of course farm multiple species. The reason why we launched a fund, we know experts predict that the global aquaculture production will need to double or even triple by 2050, which is a huge number. It's currently one of the fastest growing food production sectors out there. And there's a few reasons for that. Well, I think everyone knows this slide. Our world population continues to grow. We're expected to be with 10 billion people by 2050. It's a staggering number, and all these people need to eat. At the same time, middle incomes are rising. There's a trend to eat healthier, and seafood is considered to be one of the healthier choices. And since the 50s, our seafood consumption per person has more than doubled. This is all happening while approximately 85% of our oceans are at their limits. We cannot take more out of the oceans than we do today. So we know that this industry is going to grow no matter what. So we better make sure this is done right. I could share a long list of sustainability issues that are related to aquaculture. Just mentioning a few: think of destruction of ecosystem, escapes into the wild, overuse of antibiotics and chemicals. But again, with the current technology and with the current know-how, there's great aquaculture out there, and that is what we focus on. So our mission with Aquaspark, we're quite ambitious, is to move the aquaculture industry towards a more healthy, sustainable, and affordable production, while making comparable financial returns to the more traditional, so less sustainable industry. For us, making impact and making returns, we really want to show that can go hand in hand. We want to become an example to the industry. There's no excuse anymore to do it in a different way, to grow this industry in a different way. So we're looking for system change and really making a difference. The strategy that we have chosen is by building an ecosystem across the value chain. So we want to build a portfolio ecosystem of 50 to 60 companies in total, and then across species and across geographies. So we don't only invest in best-in-class farming operations, but we will also invest in companies that produce sustainable feed ingredients. Currently, you probably know that we still take a lot of fish out of the oceans that are then being fed to the farmed fish. We're looking for natural and sustainable solutions as alternatives to the other resources like soy, wild-caught fish meal, fish oil, even slaughter waste goes into feed, etc. We will invest in animal health, animal welfare, like disease battling. We will invest in new technologies that can really improve farming practices, and then all the way to marketing and distribution. So it's really building a portfolio ecosystem or a portfolio with synergies in it, where the companies There all need to be an individual strong investment case, but we also are looking for a portfolio that can really benefit from each other and grow together. And that is really the core strategy that we are building. So if we invest in a feed ingredient company, we will also connect them to the farming operations. Our farming operations will be able to get access to those world-class sustainable feed ingredients through a favored nations clause. So they will be able to get access to those ingredients against a favorable price. And at the same time, the feed ingredient companies will get access to the farming operations to do testing and research on those species. And that's just a random example how we connect the portfolio together. And every time we look into new companies that we want to add to our portfolio, we're looking really like, hey, how does that make sense? How we can plug in like the next company that makes a difference in the ecosystem. We maybe nice to mention that we launched in 2015, and we launched with a small 6.8 million euro from a small group of pioneer investors. When we were going out into the market in 2014 and the years before, not many people were looking into aquaculture or oceans as an investment theme. And it's still, I don't think it's one of the sectors where a lot of capital is flowing into, although it's really improving and you see more funds coming up. But yeah, we were able to launch with a small group. And we made our first investments then. And today, I'm very happy to share that we have grown to a fund that is managing over 500 million assets under management. We have an investor group of over 350 investors from 30 countries. It's a mix of family offices, individuals, foundations, institutional investors, industry corporates. We have 26 portfolio companies today. I actually sent around an email today with our latest investments. And you know, this is really about making change. So we love to bring the community together, and that is the community of portfolio companies, the community of investors, governments, university. We're part of think tanks. So we really believe that by creating partnerships and by doing this together, we can really make a change. As investors, we are quite active investors. We always take a board seat, always try to be the lead investor and really, really work with the companies to help them to scale. So we don't just bring in the money. We want to bring in much more, and that's really, being a good partner for a longer period. Just some general facts, and I think that may be interesting because we have decided if you really want to make a change, if you really want to make a difference as a fund, we also decided that this needed a different approach, a different fund model. So we have decided to use an open-ended fund model where investors can basically continuously join. We have a long-term approach with flexibility for the investors, where they basically can decide for themselves how long they want to stay engaged in the fund. And that also gives us the flexibility as an investment fund. We're continuously attracting new capital to work in an optimal way with the portfolio companies. So we don't have to exit after year 8. We can hold on to the company in the ecosystem as long as it makes sense. Or we can explore partial exits, or we can pay out dividend returns. We have a lot of flexibility, and we think that's the optimal structure for this sector, for impact, but also to create attractive returns for our investors. Also with a structure, we can do follow-on investments in our portfolio companies, and we continue to make investments from new funds. I already mentioned the large investor community, and what I really love about this community is, how much value they add to us, but also to the portfolio companies. It's really an incredible group that we have together. What you see here is just a snapshot of our current portfolio. Not all the portfolio companies, they fit on the page, but I just wanted to share a few examples to give you an idea on what it looks like, the aquaculture value chain, because a lot of people think aquaculture, what is that? The farming of fish. How hard can it be? But there's so much more to aquaculture. give you a few examples. We invested in a tech company from Indonesia, eFishery, and eFishery optimizes feeding and uses the data to provide financing and market access to farmer. Through their platform and through their products, the income of farmers, and that includes smallholder farmers, has more than doubled. We focus on environmentally optimized farms that showcase the potential of aquaculture. That's a really key part of our approach. And so we invested in a land-based farm that uses geothermal powered and produces Arctic char. And that's really, for us, a shining example of what a sustainable farming operation can look like. And the name is Matorka. We invest in a company from the Netherlands. That's actually the one closest to home, which is Protix, which is a feeding company. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want us to how do you want us to do with questions? Put them in the chat afterwards. Raise our hand. I did everything. I now reply. So.
I'm sorry. I'm just I didn't even realize there was a hand. Maybe I cannot see it because I share my screen. I'm almost finished. Is it an idea if I
yeah, let's let her finish, and then we'll have some time for questions after that.
Apologies, I completely missed that.
I didn't see that. You know, I only have speaker view on also. I didn't see your hand there raised, Alex. Yeah, I did see the question in the chat about the Dutch broccoli, but let's let Stephanie finish, and then we'll get to the questions. Okay.
Wait, Dutch broccoli. I'm curious now. I don't know if I have anything to say on Dutch broccoli, but.
And for this slide, could you can use the pointer to indicate about which company you're talking, so that we don't have to look for which one it is?
Yeah, right. Well, this is actually a snapshot from our website. I think, you know, if you would later maybe potentially go to our website, you can click on each of the companies and you get the full story. It's just, let me see. I don't know how the pointer works here. Okay. Oh, wait. I think I'm now doing something wrong.
It's just should be your cursor. I think it.
Yeah, that's what I have. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing now. Can anyone see that I'm moving?
Yeah, it's in the middle. It's towards the middle.
Yeah, it's eFishery. That was the one that I mentioned first. Then, well, I also have like small pictures, so I cannot see the full slide, and not all of the companies are on it. So let me just continue, and I will give you our website to look into later if you're interested in learning more. But it's just about giving you an idea on how diverse the ecosystem is that we invest in. So it's really from Africa to Asia, from feed ingredients to tech. This is really about, you know, everyone on this planet being able to consume sustainably produced seafood. That's the ultimate goal. Yeah, there would be more examples about the portfolio. See now you see it was already last slide actually. So just wanted to mention that if anyone that would be interested in learning more about what we do or the ecosystem, I mean, we only have a short time here, but there's a lot to tell about the fund model potentially, or about the ecosystem. So happy to follow up with anyone that would be interested in learning more. I'll stop sharing my screen, and now I can see everyone again. So Alex, any questions?
Yes, thank you. To attract more capital, have you tried share funding via the Dutch platform called broccoli.eu?
Oh, that's the broccoli.
Yeah.
No, I actually never heard of that. I actually never heard of the platform. So what we currently do, we yeah, of course we have this large group of investors already in the fund, but we're always looking for new capital indeed. we are, as a manager, we're listed at the Dutch Financial Authority. So for us, the minimum ticket would be 100,000 euros to accept into the fund. So I don't know with the platform what it would mean. But what works, we are on several platforms. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tonic platform with double I, which is a large group of impact investors across the world. It's a really interesting group that also shares knowledge, shares due diligence, and we have quite a few investors from there. We attract nowadays investors from across the world. We try to be present not only, you know, to pitch our story, but also to create awareness that people need to make better choices when it comes to eating seafood. So yeah, the press really helps us. Investors help us tremendously by making new introductions. But they also, because we have this open-end model, what you see often is that an investor joins us today with a small ticket. They put their feet in the water, and then over time they make follow-on investments in the fund, and that. So we've been quite lucky to receive, I would say of the income and capital, 40 to 50% comes from our current investor base, but we continue to also to grow the investor community. But thank you for pointing the broccoli side out. Happy, I'm going to look into it. Yeah.
And the site you mentioned, was it Atomic? Could you put that maybe in the chat?
Tonic. This is the name. So I don't know if you are familiar with the GIN. You have the GIN is the Institutional Impact Group, and there's also, of course, the group of individual investors, family offices that had to create a Tonic to match the GIN. But it started out as a really small group. We were already a member in the very early days, even before we launched Aquaspark, but it's really growing into international community. Really interesting to check out. There's a lot of investment opportunities shared there, and also a great group to meet new investors with an impact focus. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Stephanie. And so Session 1 kicked off with Brian von Herzen of the Climate Foundation, and they're doing stuff in seaweed. Are you familiar with Brian or what they're doing at all? Because it is, you know, it's ocean related. It's not so much aquaculture. My understanding was they're trying to grow seaweed basically and do some deep water circulation. I think he called it. And then they're producing like a liquid fertilizer that can actually be used on land-based farms from that.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with his name, but I wouldn't be surprised if my colleagues are. So the people that work in deal flow are director of partnerships, etc. But I'm not familiar with him. But of course, seaweed, algae, but also making products from waste streams, etc. That's incredibly interesting to us.
Yeah, it might be worth checking out. So that was the Session 1 towards almost right at the beginning, and it'd be probably good for you guys to connect at some point, at least to give it a look and see if you like. It sounded like they started as a nonprofit and got some nonprofit funding, and now they're sort of have a for-profit arm as well, so that got a little bit of a head start from the nonprofit funding. So that's always kind of nice to start on first or second base with things. Were there any other questions for Stephanie? You covered that it was €100 minimum. What do you think? And I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but like, what could be done? I know that they want to protect investors on these riskier things, protect smaller investors, but what can be done where we get more democratized access to great funds like Aquaspark, any thoughts on that?
Where you can find great funds like Aquaspark?
Well, I mean, like, how can we get, you mentioned Tonic, but like, how can we democratize access more? In the US, there are some things like with farmland now, you can get it at a lower price than you used to, but there's still a fairly high barrier of entry, even, with some of the, sites like Angels List or, WeFunder, I guess, goes pretty low. I think they sometimes actually have pretty low, barriers if you want to go single things. But like, it seems to me if there was a nice vehicle, like literally like an ETF or something that had all these other top funds in it, guys could buy in for $100 and have access to 1,000 different companies, that are startups. It seems like that product would be good, particularly if it was in the, the impact space.
Absolutely. I know there's a bank in the Netherlands, they are called ASN. I'll also type ASN. They have a biodiversity fund. The biodiversity fund. That's a public fund actually. And we are part of their portfolio, and I'm really happy that investors can basically join that fund for, I think the minimum is 10 or 20 euro. So that's I don't know how accessible that would be for US investors, for example, or from people outside of the Netherlands, but we were quite thrilled indeed to see that there's finally a fund that sort of accepts funds like us, also with a sort of a different model in their fund.
You guys have more the evergreen rather than the traditional VC model of fixed periods. So no, that's cool. ASN Biodiversity Fund, I think that's one worth looking at for people. Not sure if it's only Dutch access, but if it has a little broader access, that's the type of thing that we'd like to be able to, we'd like to be able to point people not just that have $1 million to invest, but that also have $1,000 or $500 to invest into products like that. So that's great. All right. So